Welcome one, welcome all to the SnailTrail4x4 Podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a wee little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about radios and Toyotas, whoop, whoop, then this is the podcast for you. That's right, ladies and germs. My name is Tyler, and this is episode 252 of the SnailTrail4x4 Podcast. And in case you guys didn't realize it, we're going to be talking about radios. So Jimmy is here today to tell us all about radios. Jimmy, how are you?
I am doing well. This episode's a palindrome.
Oh, it is. Look at you go.
I know. It's a big word for me.
I know. That's like a Chris Scrabble word.
Yeah. How many points is that?
A palindrome? I don't know. There's no X's or Z's, so probably not a lot.
Yeah, but there's a lot of letters.
There's a lot of
It all adds up.
How cool would that be if the word palindrome was a palindrome?
Right? It should be.
I know, right? Who fucked that up?
I know. It might be. I don't know how to spell it. Let me try to spell it. P-A-L-L-A-P.
Wow, look at you go.
Is that how you spell palindrome?
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, this is the late in the day recording where Jimmy and I mess up everything and we have way too much energy now.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is going to be a fun episode.
For somebody.
For everybody, okay? Everybody loves radios, bro. Jimmy, where'd you go? We've lost Jimmy, ladies and gentlemen. He is gone.
All right. I still want to be included, but I don't think I'm going to have anything to help out with.
I don't know. I think you will. I don't think you give yourself enough credit. You've been trained by the master. I'm just kidding.
My radio nerd.
What is it? The king radio nerd. Anyways, no, it's going to be a fun episode. But before we get into it, we are kind of in between giveaways since it's into December here now. So we will be announcing the winner of November's giveaway, as well as what December's giveaway is on Thursday. So pay attention for that. Get ready for that to come into your ear holes. We have some voicemails. So we'll do a couple of voicemails today. And let's see, what else do we got going on?
We were in the high 330s in reviews. So if you want to get your review in before we hit 350, to be eligible to win a swag pack, go do that now.
Yep.
Just
Make sure you're doing it.
Recording right now.
Right now?
Right now.
Cool. Yeah, go ahead and do that right now, everybody. And welcome back to all those that paused and went and did a review. So I think that does it. You want to do some voicemails?
Let's do it.
Cool. So the first one that we have lined up is No Name.
Oh, thank you, No Name.
Yeah, No Name. Just a phone number. I don't know. He may have said the name, but let's see what he has to say. It's not in my contact list. We'll say that. So,
hey guys, love the tips on the leaves. I'd also say grass. Cycle guy too. And anybody that's blowing leaves or grass into the street ought to have their grass kicked. Leave it alone.
That broke up for us a little bit too.
Yeah.
So bummer that it called in, but from what I got is he liked the part about the leaf blower. There it is.
Leaf blower, my rant about leaf blowers.
Rant about the leaf blower.
I've been getting a lot of grief about that in the patron page on
Have
Facebook.
You?
Yes.
It was funny because I was blowing the assistant's house has a big old what is it? It's a pine tree and it drops a bunch of needles on the driveway.
Okay.
And so I was blowing those out towards the street, and it just got me thinking about your rant. And I was like, went to the other side and then started blowing them back into the yard and made a pile.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was saying he feels the same way about people blowing grass.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said that people should get their grass kicked if they do that.
Yeah. Fun story. I came home yesterday and there was a pile of leaves kind of like right on the property line between mine and my neighbor's house in the road though.
Okay.
Because the city of Sacramento comes and does leaf pile cleanups,
they
right?
Pick up, yeah.
And so my neighbor ended up being outside, the one that I kind of confronted about the leaf pickup. And he had blown off half of my lawn as well.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, did you blow off the leaves into the pile here? He goes, yeah, I did. And I was like, oh, thank you. That was so thoughtful of you. And he goes, yeah, sorry, I would have done the whole thing, but my electric cord didn't reach all the way over there. And I was like, no, don't worry about it. Like, you did way more than you needed to, or I really do appreciate it. And so he did majorly redeemed himself from the last leaf blowing episode.
Nice. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I think the moral of the story is here, just don't freaking blow your stuff, whatever it is, hedge trippings, lawn clippings, leaves that have fallen, little children or whatever, out into the street so that it's somebody else's issue.
Yeah. I think that just goes for everything. Don't make your problems somebody else's problems.
Yeah.
Like, unless they're like Jimmy, like, I'll make my problems your problem anytime.
Yeah.
So
sounds good.
Yeah. Okay, good.
That's what good friends are for.
That's exactly. Next one is an Australian phone number.
Oh, I hope it's Aaron.
+61. So we'll see who this is here. Let's go.
Yeah, g'day. It's Charles here again. I heard Jimmy was very disappointed he didn't get to hear Aaron, so I'll put him on.
Yeah. Aaron.
Hey, Jason and Chris. Great podcast you do. Love your work. Those Snail Trail boys can go fuck themselves, eh?
Charles, come back. I want to talk to you. I don't like that Aaron guy anymore.
That Aaron guy's a jerk.
Yeah, Charles, where are you at?
Oh, that was pretty good.
Tyler's crying over here.
I'm tearing up over here. That was pretty good. I don't know if I was laughing too hard for everybody to hear that. Yeah. Should we play it again?
Yeah,
and I'll turn off my microphone real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, g'day. It's Charles here again. I heard Jimmy was very disappointed he didn't get to hear Aaron, so I'll put him on.
Hey, Jason and Chris. Great podcast you do. Love your work. Those Snail Trail boys can go fuck themselves, eh?
That's such an Australian voicemail right there.
Right? That was awesome.
Oh, that was pretty damn good.
Blunt and to the point.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I like
That's
it.
what blunt means, I guess. But
yeah. Thanks, guys. That was great. That made my day. Now to somebody
who is in your phone book?
Who is in my phone book. A regular here on the show.
Oh, Donnie.
Donnie. Could be Donald. We'll see.
Gentlemen, listening to episode 250 here, and I had to point out, I believe it was the secretary. She had a wonderful little nugget, perhaps an overlooked gem of information there that really I needed to point it out again. I believe she was talking about how when she's transitioning between car camping and crawling camping and how she packs, and she advised you to slim that shit down. Words to live by, friends. That could be a life motto. Jimmy's always looking for t-shirt things, slogans. Right there you go. Slim that shit down. Applies to almost everything. Universal adage. 2 thumbs up.
I would disagree with that saying.
No?
It does not work on ribeye steaks.
No?
No.
You don't want to
or
slim
New
it
York
down?
strips.
No.
Do not strip those things down, man. Give me all the fat on those guys.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
and I believe that was the assistant.
It was the assistant that said that?
Right, because we merged 2 boxes into one when we go crawling.
Right. And that does sound like something she would say. Slim that shit down.
Yeah. And we have 2 boxes for when we go car camping.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But there you go.
No. And I believe he misspoke a little bit.
Yeah.
Because isn't it, I think he said it, that, how did he phrase it? I can't recall what he said. He said gem. He said that.
It was a little gem of information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say it should be a little gem of information. But.
So it's funny you say that. So these all come through on the Google Voice number, right?
Oh, okay.
It gives you a write-up
yes.
of what they think of what Google thinks the person said.
Oh, and it
actually says
they called me little.
It said a little nugget, perhaps it overlooks gem of information there.
Yeah, perfect. See, that's what I meant. Good job, Donnie.
Yeah. But you know, I don't discount Donnie for saying everything needs to be trimmed. Trim that shit down. It applies to everything because he's a vegetarian as well.
Is he?
So yeah,
I didn't know that.
no, he totally is.
Oh, why do you say so?
Because he told me, and vegetarians just have a weird mindset for some reason. So
I agree. I know vegetarians rather well.
I mean, he drives a Land Rover, so I mean that's obviously okay.
All Land Rover owners are vegetarians.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, cool. Last one for today. Oh no, never mind. This is not an actual phone call.
No, it was a missed call. It was a robot. Is it coming through on your ears? Because I don't hear it.
The warranty before we close the file. If you're interested in renewing your auto warranty, please press 5 now, or press 9 to be removed from our list.
Press 5. I need to be hit. I need to renew my warranty, Jimmy. Oh man. So that does it for voicemails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last one was kind of funny. You got a robocall.
Right. Fix your home or your home warranty, your vehicle's warranty.
Yeah.
Have you ever talked to those people before?
I've tried.
You've tried? Do they hang up on you once you tell them that you're trying to get a warranty out on Bobcat?
No. No, usually when it's a robot and they're like, hello. And you're like, hello. And it's like, how are you? And I'm like, you're stupid. And it's like, thank you very much.
I've done it before where I just go, I'm not feeling well today. Are you here to talk to me? And they'll be like, oh, well, that's too bad. They can tell what mood you're in kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then, I've taken it so far to get an actual person on the line before and then be like, hi, I'm calling about your extended car vehicle warranty. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, your vehicle warranty, what kind of car do you have? And try and go through it with them. And they're like, no, I'm the car warranty. I was like, no, I'm the car warranty. And
you
go back and forth with them.
So you ordered a pizza? No, I one time I had one call and I was like, are you real or are you a robot? And it's like, click.
Yeah. If I've got some time to spare, I love messing around with those. So
they're kind of fun.
They can be fun. I did go do it one time. I told them I had a 1994 4Runner and they're like, oh, we can't do anything for you. And I was like, no, but I need a warranty. And they're like, we can't. Do you have another car? I was like, no, it's my only car.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we don't have anything for you. I was like, but I need something. Come on.
You gotta help me here. You gotta help me, man.
Anyways.
I have had some ones about computer virus. You know, your computer has a virus and we need you to log into this.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then they have you check just this normal thing in the BIOS that normally runs and always says that there's errors or it has a problem, you know, and I know that. And they're like, okay, have you logged in? Yeah, I did. Yeah, okay. Do you see there's errors? How many errors? Oh, there's 7. You know, just making some bullshit up.
Yeah.
And then okay, now we need to, do X, Y, and Z. Okay, yeah. Oh, I see that too. Yeah, perfect. And I'm just doing whatever. And they go, okay, so you need to install this software. Yeah, I'm not installing your software. Yeah. But you see you have errors. So no, that's just this normal program that you make it that always runs and is always running in your background and it always sees these weird things happen.
Yeah.
Okay, but so you need to install this. No, I'm not installing your software. And and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just stringing you along so you can not call other people.
Yeah.
What you're doing is fraud. You're trying to break into people's computers.
Yeah.
Click.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man. Good times dealing with scammers.
Mm-hmm. I feel bad for the old people though.
Yeah.
Get taken advantage of it.
Yeah.
The assistant's grandma.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the mini assistant's great grandma, right?
Okay.
Has been taken advantage of.
Bummer.
And we've always said if anybody's asking for money, come talk to us first and find out if it's something that you need to do.
Yeah.
Like, don't go, oh, they can solve my problem right now.
Yeah.
You're like, no, you don't need that problem solved right now. Probably not.
Yeah.
You know? But
yeah, there's I mean, the sad part is that they wouldn't be doing it if it didn't work.
right, exactly.
So people are getting taken advantage of on
You just need to take your cell phone away.
Yeah.
Give her one of those help alert buttons.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Oh man. Cool. So speaking about help alert buttons, radios can do that. Did you know that? Did you know that radios can do help alert things?
Are you going to tell us how in today's campfire discussion?
Possibly.
Ooh.
It's going to be fun. Are you ready?
No.
You look like you're dreading the next 2 hours here, Jimmy.
I am. Hopefully it's not 2 hours.
All right, so without further ado, let's get right on over to today's campfire discussions, where I'm going to put everybody to sleep. So play this when you're getting ready to go to bed at night, or if your kids are trying to take a nap. So grab your favorite drinks. We'll be right on back. Ooh, welcome back, ladies and gentle ladies.
I meant this one.
Oh, thank you.
I hit both at the same time.
Nice.
Whoops. Sorry.
What? What are you sorry about?
That I hit the wrong button.
Can you stop playing with the board? I'm trying to talk here.
No.
No. I don't play with it.
That's what I need.
I'm trying to I'm trying to do a sober week like Jason did, but 100 days. Wait, where are you going? Where are you? Oh, you're as he goes to get a beer out of the studio fridge here, courtesy and compliments of Gear Wrench. Nice. So
twist tops.
Today I got to have an interesting, fun little discussion, and I've had it now a couple of times with a couple different people. One of the times I had it with Ultra 4 Jones, Kevin.
Okay.
Another time I had it with TAC 1 Fab.
Nice.
And I've had it another time with somebody else. But the
FCC.
The FCC, probably. I actually did talk to them a little bit about stuff. There's a...
This is cold.
I know, it's nice, right?
It's good.
Dead body parts used to get kept in that fridge.
That's not true.
And blood did.
I thought it was never used. I thought it was brand new.
Maybe that was the one that was never used. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Anyways, you might find a pancreas in the back of it somewhere. So
how much can we sell that for?
The pancreas?
Think I could get some freaking 40s?
Maybe. So there seems to be just a lot of either confusion or misinformation, or there's just a lot of different rules and regulations out there. And so it's hard to figure out what's right or not.
Or what's legal
or not when it comes to radios.
Okay.
Especially when you're starting to look at using radios for dual purposes, such as race teams versus recreation wheeling in your race car.
Okay.
Kind of thing. And how do you set up your radio communications for all of that?
Got it. Okay.
And so we all know that Rugged Radios sells radios.
Yes, they do.
And they've been selling commercial radios to the mass public for a very long time.
Yes, they do.
And they've gotten in trouble for it 2 to 3 times now.
Yes, they have.
And now they're claiming that any of their radios sold, anybody is legally allowed to use them in these designated areas. And they tell you what those areas are.
Okay.
And so I started looking into that claim, and I went down a really long rabbit hole reading a lot of rules and regulations with the FCC, spending some time on the phone with the FCC, and figuring out what we as off-roaders are legally allowed to do. What should we be doing? What should we not be doing on radios? And so there's some interesting loopholes and some interesting, very clear-cut non-loopholes for different stuff. So let's dive a little bit into, what is the difference? Is there a difference in radios between ham radio usage and commercial radio usage?
Okay. Before we jump there, can I ask you something a little bit more basic to that?
Yeah.
Is there a difference between the radios themselves, like physical,
like
hardware stuff? Like, is there an actual difference kind of between the radios?
Good question. A lot of times, no, not really.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The big difference on them is the transmitters that are used. But a lot of radios nowadays, unless they're like very specific, specifically for like commercial use radios, like Motorola uses some very precision transmitters.
Okay.
And so if you start getting too far off of the frequency that transmitter was designed for, you can definitely burn out the transmitters.
Got it.
But a lot of radios nowadays that are more kind of general purpose usage come with wider range transmitters. They're not going to last as long or be as robust as the very precision transmitters that like Motorola uses and stuff, but you can use them on a wider range of frequencies.
Got it.
So they just won't last quite as long before you burn up the transmitters. Whereas like Motorola radios, they will last forever.
Right.
It's like impossible to kill them.
Okay. And so does, in this instance, does Motorola make CB radios, ham radios, commercial band radios, GMRS radios, and they're all sort of, because their transmitters are so tight, they make that transmitter for that specific genre of radio?
Usually for industrial commercial usage, they do.
Okay.
But for civilian usage, they generally use wider range transmitters because they're cheaper.
Okay.
You know, in an industrial or business application, they want their radios to last forever and be bulletproof.
Got it.
Right? Because a lot of emergency dispatch, police departments are using those radios, and a lot of emergency services use those radios. So they need them to always work and depend on them working. And so for like their GMRS radios, it's a more of a broader range transmitter. For their CBs, it's a very different, much lower band transmitter in them. And so really, if you're talking, you can generally group radio usage into the band or the spectrum, the radio spectrum that they're going to be operating on. And so a lot of people are familiar with the terms VHF and UHF. So typically if a radio says can do UHF frequencies, that means it can probably do the 70 centimeter ham bands.
Time out. Very high frequency and ultra high frequency.
Yes.
Just for some clarification there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Go for it.
And
so which ones are which?
So very high frequency is lower in frequency than ultra high frequency.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Very high is not as big as ultra high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so ultra high frequencies, if a radio says it can do ultra high frequencies, UHF, which is where the Australian quote unquote CB band is located.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, it's really interesting how Australia has set up their radio rules and usage. But the UHF
so that's why they always have those big whips on the front.
Exactly.
Because they're actually CBs. Ultra high CBs?
No.
Oh. Well, you said CB band is in the very ultra high.
CB just stands for Citizens Band.
Oh.
That means it's open usage for anybody to use.
Got it.
So,
not an actual CB radio.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thanks.
Yeah.
I was confused there.
Yeah.
And I probably, one other listener was like,
Probably,
I don't get it.
yes.
Everybody else got it. So
yeah.
Continue on. Citizen band.
So yeah, the Citizens Band for the United States, which is what everybody refers to as CB, is a 27 megahertz frequency, which is technically HF, high frequency.
High frequency.
And not very high frequency.
Is there a bi-frequency?
No, there is low frequency and then very low frequency. And I believe there's an ultra low frequency ULF. But that's like getting into submarine bands.
No goodbye frequency.
No goodbye frequencies.
Only high frequencies.
Only highs, yeah.
Okay, good.
And so, yeah, 27 megahertz is, I mean, it's just a radio wave, right? And so
aren't they all radio waves for the most part?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So just because something works on
I got one thing right.
Yeah, just because something works on 27 megahertz versus 427 megahertz or 457 or 447, whatever it is, doesn't make it that big of a difference in hardware. It really just makes it a huge difference in transmitters and receivers as well.
Okay.
So,
all right. So
anyways,
I think that's enough talk.
Yeah.
About what the actual difference is between the radios.
Yeah. So that's pretty much, I mean, a radio is a radio. It's a transmitter, receiver, and some gizmos and gadgets in between to do other fun stuff with them.
Yeah.
And all they're doing is transmitting and receiving radio waves.
Right.
Anything that connects wirelessly is transmitting a radio wave. Like Bluetooth is transmitted on a radio wave. So if somebody is saying, hey, I'm using Bluetooth for something, they're telling you what frequency they're using. So you can hack their signal if you know the Bluetooth protocol and if it's not encrypted. So Bluetooth just refers to the language that the two devices are talking in over that frequency.
Right.
So drones, citizen drones, like a Mavic, a DJI Mavic or something, they run on the same radio frequency waves that your home routers run on for your internet in your home.
2.4G?
2.4 gigahertz, yep. So if you took a home router, you can rewire one to receive and pick up nearby drone signals if you have a drone flying around you. And if you put an amplifier on the transmitter of your home router, you can amplify your signal so much that you'd essentially block out the drone's control signals and you can take over that drone. So fun little stuff you can do with radio waves once you start understanding what's going on around you.
Can you set it up so that they pretty much fall out of the sky right above your house?
Absolutely, you can. However, messing with radio waves is a federal offense and you will get a felony if you're caught.
Okay.
So
I just don't know why they keep falling out.
The drones?
Yeah, they did right at my house. They always, right. I have this collection of drones that have just fallen.
Yeah, put a really strong signal just directly above your house.
Yeah, all the batteries seem to just die whenever they come over my house.
So anyways, there's a lot of really cool stuff once you realize that a radio wave is just a radio wave. And a lot of things use radio waves. So when you're looking at trying to figure out how to set up your radio communications in your vehicle, knowing that most radio hardware is all very similar stuff to achieve the same thing. Mm-hmm. The reason why a GMRS radio is different from a ham radio, which is different from a commercial radio, which is different from a CB radio, is because the FCC is because everything uses radio waves to communicate.
Yeah.
And because everything uses radio waves, we need to have little slivers of the radio spectrum set aside for different uses so that we can all get along. And I don't have to fight my home router in order to fly my drone.
Right.
So,
or you flying your drone isn't interrupting emergency like firefighter communication.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So yeah, if you're flying your drone around on the same frequencies that, CHP runs their dispatches on, that's a really bad thing. Mm-hmm. So the FCC has come out and said, okay, there's all these different people, and people reach out to the FCC all the time saying, hey, I have this use I want to use radio waves for. Can we take a segment of the radio spectrum and set it aside for this usage? And the FCC then looks at it and says, okay, here's where we want to put it. The radio spectrum is here. It's so much impact. There's so much other stuff going on right here. We'll give you this little sliver here. Stay in those frequencies and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So that's what they do with all the communications frequencies: GMRS, ham radio, FRS, which is family radio service, CB, commercial radio, which is race radios. A lot of times that's what race radios fall under the category.
Well, and there's even more communications than that, right? Because
there's a ton more.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking of military and first responders, and all of them also have their own sort of place in the spectrum also.
Absolutely. They do. Yep. So the FCC's job is to make sure that everybody gets a share of the radio spectrum to do what they want to do with. And so the problem though is that the average citizen is not going to take the time to go in and figure out where the priority stuff is operating at, where the military frequencies are, where your police dispatch frequencies are, where all the other important frequencies are running at. They're just going to pick up a little handheld and start operating on it because it came with the ability to operate there.
Yeah, right. Like the little Motorola walkie-talkies.
The Baofangs.
No, the Motorola is like that. I think they're FRSs, the ones that have like 16 channels. And, you know, back in the day, they only had 16 channels. They didn't have 16.1.
Yeah, they weren't digital. Yeah,
they weren't digital. It was, you know, and so you went to channel, we're going to talk on channel 14.
Yep.
Right. And then you're talking on channel 14. Well, channel 14 is a frequency.
Yep, it is a frequency.
It's a preset frequency inside of that radio.
Yeah, it's no different from taking a rugged radio, PCI radio, you know, your ham radio, and
or
programming,
a CB radio, because those actually have channels too, right?
Well, the thing about the channels is all it is it's a programmed memory channel.
Right. Program memory for a specific frequency.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's just that those are controlled at the manufacturer. So with like a ham radio, you can program in your own frequencies and run, hey, channel, we're going to be running on, you know, if everybody has the same programming, we're going to be all running on this channel 2, which is really 146.460 megahertz.
Yeah.
The same thing is with FRS and CB. It's just the manufacturers control the programming of it because the FCC has said, if you want to manufacture a radio that can be sold and used on this frequency, it has to follow these rules. And so FRS and CB, open license. You don't need a license to use them, but they're held at pretty stringent regulations. You know, they're very channelized. With CB, you can't go outside of your 40 channels. With FRS, you can't go outside of your 16 channels, 18 channels, whatever it is now. GMRS has 22 channels, but it's really 28, I believe, because there's 6 channels that can be used as repeaters. So repeaters need an input and output channel.
Okay.
So technically GMRS has 28 channels. However, handhelds are only programmed for 22 because the other 6 are set up for repeater frequencies. For repeaters to use.
I remember when I was up outside of Georgetown and we were wheeling around in that Rock Creek area.
Oh, yeah.
And the leader of the, I remember the name, Placer County, Placer Jeep and Wheelers.
There you go.
That Nate, the leader of that group, was attempting to hit his repeater with his GMRS.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm hitting a repeater.
Yeah.
When we were standing underneath the tower that had my repeater on it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I didn't know that at the time. I'm like, I'm hitting a repeater.
I'm hitting this repeater and it's over in Placerville. And you're really hitting
I'm hitting
the receiver right above you.
Right above me, like 100 feet up.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. But yeah, so I mean, it's having channelized quote unquote radios is really just the FCC's way to help keep everybody playing well together, right? So the interesting thing comes when you get into ham radio or commercial radios, because they're not really channelized.
Right. Yeah, you can almost type any frequency in.
You can type in whatever frequency you want because whenever you get ham radio, ham licenses, ham radio is very, very open use. Because the FCC expects that in order to get your license, you know a few things. So once you have your license, they pretty much don't regulate ham radio.
Yeah. If you've tested and you pass, they expected you learned and you know what to do.
Exactly. So I always laugh when people say, well, CB's open, but ham has so many regulations. I'm like, no, it's the exact opposite. You have to take a test to get your ham license, but it is really unregulated. Based on or compared to like CB or FRS.
Right. CB is free, but you're only limited to 40 channels.
40 channels and only 4 watts of power and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So, but anyway. Legally, exactly. I had one guy trying to argue with me that his CB would outdo me, outdo a ham radio anytime, any day, anything. And I was like, there's no way. I'm sorry, but there's no way. And he started diving into a little bit further. I was like, I will bet you $500 that I have a greater range than you do. He goes, okay, cool. And so it turns out he's using like a 400 watt amplifier. And I was like, you don't get to use that in our test. He goes, yes, I can. It's my equipment. I was like, no, because you're not operating legally. I'm talking about actual legal operation.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, if I want to run 1,500 watts on my ham, I can do that. You can't. If I want to run 2,000 watts, I could probably outdo your 500 watts, no problem. But it's illegal to do so. So anyways, yes, things are highly regulated to make sure that everybody plays well together. And so the problem comes when you get a license, such as a commercial license or a ham radio license, and those are two separate licenses. Just because you have a commercial or a ham does not mean you get to use the other one. You get to be on the other one, correct?
So I have my ham license, but I'm not allowed to be on the commercial frequencies?
Correct. Yep. So it's not like a tiered thing where like a ham license is an umbrella for other licenses because you know a little bit more than other people do, supposedly.
Right.
It's you need to have a license in order to use commercial frequencies, and you need a commercial license. If you want to use ham frequencies, you need a ham license. You want to use GMRS frequencies, you got to have a GMRS license.
So I might be jumping ahead here, but if I get a commercial license, does that only license me for a specific frequency, or does that license me to use any commercial frequency license?
That is a great question, and that is the next step here.
Okay.
Because ham radio, we talked about, is pretty well unregulated. Once you have a license, you can play and do whatever you want within the ham radio frequencies.
I can hit all these repeaters. I can talk on simplex on a vast range of channels. I can be transmitting digitally for APRS on a completely, different sort of frequency. And so I can go on all over the place on a huge, you probably even know the numbers between X and Y of these frequencies that I can go on to. But my understanding of commercial licenses is that there's only it's this one frequency for this one license, right? Like I know that like BFG has a commercial license, and this is their frequency for that license.
Yes, exactly. So because you have a commercial frequency or commercial license does not mean you get to legally now use any commercial frequency out there. Your license is tied to whatever frequency you applied for. And not only that, but the commercial frequencies are tied to commercial licenses, are tied to geographic locations. So just because you have a commercial license for a specific frequency in Sacramento, California, does not mean you are legally allowed to use that same frequency in Moab, Utah.
Oh, wow.
So
they're much more strict.
Far more strict, because typically businesses don't move around very often.
Yeah.
And so if a logging company in Northern California here needs to use a commercial frequency to run their business, that's the point of having a commercial license, is you have to be doing something for business purposes. And so if a logging company needs to do that frequency, there's no reason why they should claim that frequency for the entire country. Might as well let a taxi company in New York use that same frequency, because their radio waves are never going to overlap, right?
Okay, yeah.
You're not going to have a conflicting geographic area where two companies are trying to use the same frequency. So commercial frequencies are done in such a way that you get tied to a specific frequency to a specific geographic area that is 70-mile radius of whatever you set your home point to be.
Wow. Okay.
Now,
70-mile radius from
wherever you set your home GPS coordinates according to the FCC.
Right. And it doesn't have to be your home.
Nope, not necessarily. You can put it wherever you want.
Yeah.
So you get to pick your 70-mile radius, and then you just have to make sure that nobody else is using that frequency in the 70-mile radius you want to be using it on, which comes down to coordination. And there's people that are in charge of viewing all the commercial licenses in that geographic area and saying, yes, that frequency is available to be used in this geographic area, or it's not. Pick a different frequency kind of thing.
Got it.
So commercial frequencies are far more strict, far more regulated than ham radio frequencies. But the nice thing about them is that if you get coordinated, you get your own frequency. There should never, ever be somebody else on your frequency in your area once you have it, which is a huge, nice thing for businesses that need to depend on using the radio to do their business, pay their employees, pay for the food in the houses on their employees' tables. And so that's the nice thing about having it so strict. Now, there's another segment of commercial frequencies out there that's called itinerant frequencies.
Okay.
Itinerant frequencies let you go outside of that 70-mile radius now.
Okay.
And those are done usually on a state-by-state basis. So you can either apply for them for all of California or all of Utah or all of New York, whatever it is, or you can apply to have the entire United States.
Wow.
The downside to doing that, the plus side is you can get much bigger usage to those geographic areas, the states that you want.
Right.
The downside is you're not exclusive to that frequency now. There's going to be other people that also have the option to use that frequency if they want. So you don't have exclusive rights.
Okay.
But you're going to have much, much fewer competition on that frequency than, say, if you're trying to use FRS frequencies in an areas.
Sure. Right.
So.
Okay. So, and is a specific frequency for an itinerant as well, right?
Yep. So like the BFG PITS frequency that comes on any race radio you get nowadays, that is an itinerant frequency. That BFG has a license for the entire United States.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But there's also, I've noticed that BFG PITS frequency, there's a campground up in the Sierra Nevadas near the Rubicon that uses that frequency for their own camp stuff, for running their campsite.
Is it an itinerant? It must be an itinerant.
Yep. So
why would they have an itinerant?
For whatever reason, maybe they oversee multiple campgrounds, so they needed more than a 70-mile radius.
Maybe.
I'm not sure why, but I remember hearing them on the BFG PITS channel one time, and I was like, "Who is this?" And they're like, "Hey, I acknowledge that you guys are out there trying to have some fun with your off-roaders, but we're trying to run stuff here at the campground." From like keeping track of their janitorial service and where the camp hosts were and everything. They said, "Do you guys mind moving channels and going somewhere else?" And there were people in our group that gave them a bunch of grief and told them they weren't moving and decided to raise ruckus on the channel instead. And that's when I kind of broke myself off from the group and said, "I'm not going to be associated with you anymore today, guys. I'm leaving."
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, it's people depend on those channels to run their business.
Right.
So you have to be careful with itinerant frequencies, especially if you're rec wheeling. A, you shouldn't be on there anyways because you're not having a commercial purpose. But B, there are businesses on those channels that depend on those to pay their employees.
Right.
I would much rather have people use ham frequencies unlicensed than use commercial frequencies unlicensed.
Sure. You just said something that it sparked my interest. You said
okay.
You said especially if people are rec wheeling.
Yeah.
Right. So if people are rec wheeling, they're not supposed to be on commercial frequencies if they don't have the license.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. If you don't have a license, you shouldn't be there anyways.
Right.
There's no reason why you should or can be operating on commercial frequencies if you don't have a commercial license.
Right. So what about itinerant frequencies? Do you need a special license for an itinerant frequency?
Yep. Itinerant frequencies fall under the category of commercial frequencies. It's a section of the commercial frequencies that's used specifically for businesses that operate in a larger than 70-mile radius.
Okay. And so do you have to, what if you're affiliated with those businesses?
If you're affiliated with those businesses, you still should not be using them. You're supposed to, according to the FCC and the way the rules and regulations are written, in order to be on those frequencies, you should be conducting business at the time of using those frequencies, especially on itinerant frequencies, because just because you can't hear and receive signals, you can't hear anybody nearby, does not mean that there aren't not people trying to use an itinerant frequency nearby to run their business.
Right. But what I think is interesting that you're saying is, if you're not doing business, you shouldn't be on those channels.
Correct.
So are they strictly for business?
Absolutely. Yes.
So it's not for general banter and conversation.
Correct. Yes.
And is that legally written in there?
Yes, it is.
So even if I'm a part of BFG, which I wish I was.
Yeah, I know, right? I need some new tires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have their permission to be on their channel. If I'm rec wheeling, I can't use that channel because it's not conducting business.
Correct. The way that the language is written with the FCC, that is correct. Yes.
So it's the commercial frequencies and itinerant and in parallel itinerant frequencies are strictly for business communications.
Absolutely. Yep. Now, you could be running a business that does guided tours, like Rubicon Trail Adventures and Dave McKinney.
Okay.
And he could get commercial frequencies for himself. And then anybody who's on that trip is a paid patron of that trip, or any of his employees that are working during business hours can use that frequency. And because part of his business is having a fun time on trails, banter would fall under that category.
Okay.
So,
all right. So you were, and probably, I think you did get a commercial frequency for Trek. So because you were running Trek, everybody underneath Trek, Sierra Trek, falls under allowed to use your commercial frequency
during Sierra Trek.
During that window at that time. Were you on an itinerant frequency? Or did you set home at Meadow Lake?
No, I have itinerant frequencies.
Okay.
Yeah. So because commercial licenses are very specific, the FCC, when you apply for your license, they make you tell them and have a written statement saying what your business is and why do you need that frequency to run your business. So when I got my channels for my off-road radio, I put down that we help run communications at off-roading events. And that's why I need the commercial frequencies to run my business.
Okay.
So, if BFG's license says that they have that to run race support at off-roading races for their race teams and their team drivers, then while they're at races helping and give support to race teams at races, they're allowed to use that frequency. But they should not be using it for tour guiding trail rides in Moab, promoting the new BFG Trails app. I don't know if they are doing that. I was just giving a complete example. I was not saying that they're doing that. But that's the thing. If you want to now run guided tours, you need to update your license, your commercial license, to say, hey, we've now expanded our business. We need to update our license that says we are now also doing tour guides in off-road environments. So your license is very specific to what you're doing to run your business.
Right.
And if you're not running your business at that time according to what the license says you're supposed to be doing, then it is illegal to be using a commercial frequency.
Yeah. I think that's interesting because it's, you're going to run into an argument of what you wrote your license for.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because, sort of going back to the BFG thing, not knowing if it's true or not. We're using, let's just put a blanket out here that we're using BFG as an example. We aren't like, what we're saying didn't actually happen, or we don't know if it happened or not. We're just saying, we're just using,
I'm just using PFG pits because it's a very well-known channel.
Yeah.
That's out in race radios, which a lot of consumers have.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're license, I'm not even going to use BFG anymore because I don't want to. I want you as a sponsor.
I know, right?
And I'm not poking fun at you.
No, exactly, right?
If we ever had the chance. So it comes down to how you write your license, I think, is what it comes down to, right?
Yeah.
Is because if you're writing your license to be able to communicate at off-roading events, then going to an off-road event and attending classified as helping at an off-road event. I mean, it's kind of this.
It's there's definitely a gray line there, and I think if you're caught by the FCC, an argument could be made, right?
Sure.
Either way, and so it really comes down to how much risk do you want to take on. If you're caught violating a license, it's like an automatic $10,000 fine. If they catch you and find that you're intentionally doing this, it's a big fine.
I wonder what. So explain to me this.
Okay.
At what point are you allowed to use commercial frequencies?
If you're
me, am I? So how would I be approved to use a commercial frequency?
You would have to be doing something that you're getting paid for.
Right. Okay. So I would have to be doing something for that company that owns that commercial frequency.
Yes. Sorry. I thought you were talking about getting like a commercial frequency for snail armor or something.
No, I mean like
SnailTrail4x4.
At what point am I allowed to use any of the commercial frequencies out there?
Yeah. So there's two different ways. You could get your own frequency.
Sure.
You just have to reason it into your license. And then B, you need to be conducting business on behalf of the company that you are working with, volunteering with, being a patron of. You need to be doing something along the lines of conducting business. And then that license is being covered by the company. So the company can say, hey, our license is good for supplying communications at events. Let's take my off-road radio, for example.
Okay.
So anybody who is volunteering as somebody working or is on payroll for that event is going to get covered under my license. However, and there's also, if somebody is paying to be there, they're registered for the event, they're covered under my license.
Okay.
If somebody is technically there and they're not really a part of the event, but they're a part of the event, they're there at the event, but they never paid a registration, they're not covered under the event's insurance, they're not partaking in any of the trail runs, they're just kind of there hanging out with everybody, they would not be covered under my license.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say I know your frequency, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
cool.
Whatever your frequency is. And now that I have it in my radio, because I used it at Sierra Trek, and I go on a random weekend and I go to the Rubicon, and I'm using your frequency, is that a frequency that's off limits? Like, am I allowed to use it?
No, you are not allowed to use it. And here's where the tricky part comes in. And this is what my mind is blown by what Rugged Radios is doing and the potential liability they're putting themselves under. So if you go and use that frequency without my permission, the FCC will come to me and say, hey, there is an off-roader on your frequency near in your geographic area causing problems on that frequency. You are responsible for it. So now I get hit with a $10,000 fine because of your actions. Now, if I never gave you permission, then I could probably fight that with the FCC and say, I didn't give this dumbass permission to be using my frequencies over there. And then they would probably say, okay, be more careful about who you give your frequencies out to in the future.
Right.
In the case of Rugged Radios, what they're doing right now is they are very, very publicly stating that if you have purchased one of their commercial race radios, you are legally allowed to be using the frequencies that they have purchased with the FCC nationwide. And they have different places. So they've not just been purchasing itinerant frequencies nationwide. They've been purchasing 70-mile radius frequencies set up at, big off-road parks. So like Rush Creek. They have a frequency that covers Rush Creek. Now, by them very publicly stating that anybody who has one of their radios is legally allowed to use their frequencies, if anybody using one of their radios fucks up and gets a fine from the FCC, Rugged Radios is responsible for it. So they are, opening themselves up to a lot of fines because off-roaders are not well known for knowing how to use radios properly.
No.
And B, that is highly illegal. They technically can't do that.
Right. Yeah, what I don't quite get is, so they're selling radios and giving people permission, quote, air unquote, permission to use any of the race frequencies, right?
Yep.
So,
which is highly illegal. You cannot do that. You can give other businesses permission. This is the loophole I found. You can give other businesses permission to conduct their business on your frequencies.
Oh, interesting.
As long as they would legally be allowed to get a license if they wanted to go through the process and get a license for their business. So like if
SnailTrail4x4 got permission from my off-road radio to use your itinerant frequency, I could use it shooting a video of a trail somewhere.
Exactly. Yes. You could do that. So that's essentially what Rugged Radios has done with a Weatherman channel, which is PCI. PCI owns that. It's another itinerant channel. BFG Pits, the Yokohama channel, Checkers. There's all these race frequencies that other companies have purchased. They have a verbal or written agreement with Rugged Radios to be able to use those frequencies. As a business to business, you can do that as long as you're conducting business.
Right.
It is highly illegal for them to then say and that any of their customers and consumers can now use those channels for recreational purposes. Highly illegal.
Well, yeah, because none of the people that are doing recreation are conducting business.
Exactly. Exactly. So, the only way that you can, because essentially what Rugged Radios is doing is they are buying up commercial frequencies nationwide. And by doing that, they are quote unquote setting up a network that people can then use, a network of frequencies nationwide that people can use to communicate to each other. That's what cell phone companies do. And there's a very specific space of radio spectrum set aside for cell services. And so if Rugged Radios wants to be doing what they're doing, they need to reclassify themselves as a cell phone company.
It seems like they're trying to channelize the ham radio.
That's exactly what they're doing. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. They just should not be doing it on business channels.
Right.
And that's really what GMRS is becoming.
Yes.
GMRS is a channelized ham radio. And so, before we get into that, because I do want to praise Rugged because they are doing something that I think is really awesome. But before I get there, the other big issue with them buying up commercial frequencies and letting, quote unquote, letting all of their customers use them is that they are now taking away radio spectrum from businesses that are going to be coming around in the future.
Yeah.
And so say a new taxi company shows up. I don't know why they would when Uber's around, but say a taxi company pops up in North Dakota.
Can we get a better example, please?
Right.
Not a dying breed. Somebody that makes newspapers.
Oh, I got a good one. Say there's a drive-through dispensary.
Ooh.
So a weed dispensary pops up and they want to make a drive-through for it.
Okay.
And they cannot get commercial frequencies for their drive-through, for their radio in their intercom to talk from the intercom to the building because Rugged Radios bought up all the commercial frequencies in their area. That's the big problem, right?
Yeah.
So they are privatizing commercial frequencies from everybody else by doing this. They're monopolizing commercial frequencies.
Interesting.
Maybe probably unintentionally, but that's exactly what's happening. So, huge kudos to them though for getting into the GMRS space. GMRS, in my opinion, is the place that off-roading should be.
Okay.
Because most of the time off-roaders, just rec wheelers, just want to talk vehicle to vehicle. That's all they care about. That's all they want. That's all they need.
Yeah.
That's exactly what GMRS is there for. And so for them now, to get into the GMRS section, I think that's huge.
Yeah.
And it shows a huge step in the right direction. And I really, really hope they continue moving in the GMRS direction, at least for their consumer stuff. Now, the thing to think about with rugged radios, which is where PCI has always been.
What is PCI?
PCI radios is the other race radio.
Oh.
They were actually around, I believe, before rugged radios, but rugged radios got so big because they sold everything to consumers, whereas PCI doesn't cross that line. They only sell to businesses, essentially race teams.
Okay.
So for rugged radios to come out and now sell a consumer radio and market it to consumers, I'm really hoping that they can take all their race radio stuff and only sell it to race teams or businesses that are trying to find communications for business usage.
Right.
So that's the big issue of what they're doing and the legalities of what they're doing and the moral dilemma, I guess, of what they're doing and some of what the maybe unforeseen repercussions are going to be in the future if they continue trying to market and sell and advertise race radios to consumers.
Got it. Well, I think the last major question is, what is it that somebody should do if they have a rugged radio?
What they should do is contact rugged radios and say, I need a refund. You sold me this illegally because this is not this is a commercial radio. I cannot legally use it. You did false advertising. And if you don't want to do that, then what you can do is contact rugged radios and say, I need to reprogram my radio. So at least I'm not using it on commercial frequencies anymore. Rugged Radios has partnered up with RT Systems, which is a very popular radio programming company.
Okay.
They program radios. And so RT Systems has all the software and everything to reprogram our Rugged's radios.
Oh, cool.
So
you do not?
I can program some of them. Some of their latest radios, they started ever since RT System took over programming all of Rugged's radios. Essentially what Rugged Radios does is they manufacture radio, take a batch of 1,000 of them and send them to RT Systems. RT Systems does all the programming on them and sends them back so that Rugged can sell them. Ever since RT Systems took over the programming of their radios, they've locked down the radios so that you have to buy RT Systems software if you want to modify the radios anymore.
Got it.
So, if you want to get your race radio from Rugged Radios and make sure that it's legal to use for you personally doing rec wheeling, contact Rugged or RT Systems, and they can get you moving in the right path to fix your radio and make sure that you are not putting yourself or Rugged at risk of $10,000 fines. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay.
And if you're a race team and you're going to be looking at recreating in your race car, like I know some race teams do, then I would recommend getting a ham radio because their transmitters are typically more broad range on the transmission abilities of them, and then just program them for your channels that you're allowed to use legally for commercial channels or ham channels or GMRS channels or whatever else, FRS, whatever you want to use it for. Ham radios are really good in that regard because they typically operate on a wide range of frequencies.
So legally, is somebody allowed to channel or to type in the frequency to speak on FRS?
Legally, no.
Okay.
But that comes down to type certifications. So in order to help control the consumers, because consumers, we have there's so very many more skill sets in people than radios. There's very few people in the population spectrum that wants to focus and gets enjoyment of building a career on radios and thus knows about radio frequencies and how airwaves work. So in order to control the consumers from talking all over emergency dispatch frequencies and commercial frequencies and all this other stuff, the FCC controls the regulations of the radio itself, and that's called a type certification. And that's what Rugged was getting in trouble with so far over the past when they first launched their race radios and were selling them to consumers. They were essentially selling Baofeng UV5R handhelds rebranded as Rugged radios, and they had them licensed. They got a license from the FCC to manufacture those radios as commercial radios, but they sold them completely open and unlocked so that consumers could punch in whatever frequency they wanted.
Right. Well, that was going to be my next question. So it sounds like there's a type, a radio type in a way.
Yep.
So technically, can a ham radio legally go on to commercial frequencies?
Not the way it's purchased from the manufacturer. You have to unlock the radios.
Which is illegal.
Yes. However, the reason why they're locked and the reason the FCC will give why they're locked is to make sure that a company like Baofeng doesn't sell completely open, unlocked radios to the mass public that can just be typed in any frequency and get used. So
somebody, if you unlock your radio, technically you can type in the frequency to disturb cops patrolling a city.
Absolutely. So if you go and unlock a radio, you better know what frequencies you are legally allowed to be on and which ones you are not allowed to be on. So I'm a big fan of unlocking radios, but I'm also a big fan of people knowing what they're doing, which doesn't always go hand in hand, right?
Nope.
And so if you don't want to know what you're doing, then don't unlock your radios and buy 4 different radios for your uses.
Yeah.
If you do not want to...
GMRS radios are not expensive.
They're really not. They're really not. You can get good quality GMRS radios for a pretty good price. But if you want to have a GMRS radio and an FRS radio and a ham radio and a CB, but you don't want to know how they all differentiate and where you should or should not be talking on and how airwaves work, then you're going to buy 4 radios.
Right.
If you want to know a little bit more, then you get a little bit more privileges, but then you're expected to follow what that knowledge is. So,
right.
Yeah.
Isn't there also a wattage requirement for FRS, GMRS?
There is. FRS is pretty much
not requirement, but limitation.
Limitations, yeah. Technically, you're not allowed more than 2 watts on FRS.
Oh, wow. Even less than CB.
Even less than CB.
Dang.
But the antenna systems are a lot simpler and easier to set up. So the antenna systems work typically a lot better than most CB setups do.
Well, they're fixed.
Because they're fixed. And so the manufacturer can set them up and get them to work perfectly.
Right.
Whereas a regular consumer who doesn't know a lot about electrical engineering or antenna theory may not set up their CB antennas properly. And so you don't get a good signal out of them. Don't get me wrong. CBs can get set up very, very well to work very well. It's just you have to put in a lot more work and know how to set them up in order to do it.
Right. You got to pull that little dongle up and down and find the right spot on those fire sticks.
Exactly. So yeah, FRS is limited to 2 watts. GMRS gets to use 50 watts.
Oh, it goes all the way up to 50.
On the repeater channels.
Oh.
Theoretically, on the other channels, the other 18 channels, I think you're only limited to 5 watts, 5 to 10 watts, somewhere in that range. Yeah. What is it? A ham radio is limited legally to 1,500 watts.
Holy cow.
And that's not
channel. I could put that in my rig?
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Now,
I could blow everybody out of the water.
You would blow everybody's signals out. Yeah. I mean, anybody within 1,000 feet of you would not be able to receive.
Be like, nope, I'm going to talk now.
Exactly. So yeah, there's different power limitations and there's different regulations to what kind of stuff you can do with each radio. And the only way you're really going to get caught is if somebody comes over and checks your radio while you're transmitting on it. Otherwise, if you take an unlocked radio and operate on the frequencies that you're supposed to operate on, people are going to leave you alone. If you're not causing problems, they don't care. It's when you start transmitting on top of emergency dispatch or interrupting campgrounds' abilities to conduct their business that you're going to get somebody pissed at you and report you. And that's when people come hunting to find you. And trust me when I say they can hunt down radio waves. It's very easy to do with the right equipment.
Wow.
And the FCC definitely has the right equipment. And I guarantee you there's at least 200 to 300 ham radio operators around you that live within your state or maybe your half of the state that would love to take a weekend and come find you. So it's literally a sport, a hobby in the ham radio world, hunting down radio waves.
Fox hunt.
It's called fox hunting, exactly. So yeah, it's unlocking your radios. In my opinion, this is not legal advice, but in my opinion, it's perfectly fine as long as you're using them responsibly. It's when you unlock the radios and then go, oh, I can now type in 467.250 megahertz, which might be a police dispatch frequency. And that's a big problem. So anyways, I hope that helps clear up a little bit about getting into the weeds of radio frequencies and why commercial frequencies are set up the way they are, why ham radio frequencies are set up the way they are, why GMRS frequencies are set up the way they are, and why it's important to stay on them and use whatever one you're going to use for the uses you're going to use it for according to how they're set up. So, yeah. Was that good? Did I put people to sleep?
I don't know. I mean, you got kind of deep into the weeds there for a little bit, but
I did.
I think you got you covered the ground well.
Thank you.
So you did a good mow. All the weeds are perfectly level.
I hope so. And if people have questions about it, please reach out. Like I want people to be using radios responsibly in a way that is not irresponsible and allows the same opportunities for everybody else in the world to be using radios too. The more and more that we rec wheeling go and use commercial frequencies to do our rec wheeling stuff with, and the more that we try and buy up commercial frequencies to use for rec wheeling purposes, it just means that there's going to be fewer and fewer frequencies out there for other people to use for stuff that they need to use them for. So, yeah, if you have any questions, please reach out. Like I'm an open book. I don't try and hide anything. I'll try and tell you, as straight as it can be.
Right.
So
definitely.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions, you can find us at Jimmy or Tyler at SnailTrail4x4.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can reach out to Tyler. Is the Morphlate IG still alive?
I mean, it's alive. It's getting a lot of workout right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, why do you say that?
Why is it getting a lot of workout?
Just because there's a lot of people contacting it right now.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, with Black Friday and the whole Black Friday week going on.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I said Morphlate and I totally meant my off-road radio.
Oh, gotcha.
Is the Morphlate or is the My Off-Road Radio IG still alive?
It is not. So I took my off-road radio and changed it to the 4x4 Toyota Tyler.
Ah.
So that's the page it is right now. So,
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So don't go to that IG.
Yeah.
Go to Morphlate instead.
Yeah.
Or you can find Tyler at 4x4 Toyota Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
I'm over at SnailTrail4x4.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a phone number. If you are utterly confused and you want to call in and voice your confusion to us, you can call in at 916-345-4744.
That is correct. Yep. And yeah, I may have to, with some of the things I'm getting ready to start doing next year with my off-road radio, I may have to bring back the My Off-Road Radio Instagram.
Cool.
So, yeah, we'll dig into that probably
next year.
I'm guessing in 2 weeks would be my guess.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that about does it. Do you have any final words for everybody out there, buddy?
It sounds like we're all on the spectrum.
We are definitely all on the spectrum. And with that, my friends, keep crawling.
to butcher this, but it's pretty good, I think.
Okay.
What do you call Santa's little helper?
All I can think about is an inappropriate answer.
Subordinate clause.
That is pretty good.